Hey everyone. I'm sorry if my clock is real loud. I realize that ticking is annoying. Hope you're having a good Sunday evening. I'm Brandon Marcello with AuburnUndercover.com, Auburn.247sports.com. I hope you guys are well. In case you missed it or haven't heard yet, Gus Malzahn has agreed to a new deal with Auburn to stay at Auburn, despite overtures from Arkansas over the last few days. Signing, I don't know if he signed it yet, but agreeing to a deal similar in structure and content to what Arkansas was offering, which was about a 7-year deal worth $50 million. Arkansas was presenting that to him. And meanwhile, Auburn was able to counter with a similar deal. I know that ESPN.com actually got the financial figures first, just about maybe 30 minutes ago or so, confirming that it's a $49 million deal over 7 years. Now, I'm not certain if that's $7 million per year. I was first told that it's like a multi-tiered, like a structured deal where his money would go up year to year, so it's very possible it might start just above $5 million next year and then goes up well above $7 million in the final year of the contract. But the big thing for Gus Malzahn in this situation is he gets more guaranteed money. So if he were to ever get fired, or if Auburn wanted to fire him for some reason, they would owe him a lot of money. So he gets some stability from that standpoint, in the belief that, Auburn wouldn't fire him. They'd stick by his side. Though, as we've seen in the past, people get fired and they get paid a lot of money either way. But a lot of money, yeah. $49 million is the reported offer. We broke the news at AuburnUndercover.com that Gus had agreed to the deal, I guess about 2.5 hours, 3 hours ago. Right after we got off the phone with Gus Malzahn, and Gus was kind of a little irritated as he was being asked about his future. He was just saying he plans to be at Auburn. He plans to be at Auburn. Wouldn't say if he was going to be at Auburn. So it was continuing to feed those rumors going around. And then literally when I got off the phone, I got a phone call and saying he's done. He's signed, still delivered, so to speak. He's staying at Auburn. Deal's done. Surprised me that it happened that fast, but apparently it happened this afternoon. And that's one of the reasons why you saw Gus Malzahn out there recruiting almost immediately on the road. Wanted to give no hint to any recruits that he might possibly leave. I'm not certain what he told the recruits on those visits. I haven't talked to any of the recruits. I think he's visited 2 or 3 today on the road. But, behind the scenes, Jimmy Sexton and Auburn worked out their deal. $49 million over 7 years. It's a lot of money. And a lengthy contract at that. Usually you see 4-year deals, 5-year deals, not 7. But, as we just saw with Jimbo Fisher getting a 10-year deal at Texas A&M, things are certainly going up. Now, why did Auburn decide, hey, let's pony up the cash? It's obvious that they believe that Gus Malzahn is the future. He's providing stability to the program. He just beat 2 number 1 teams in Georgia and Alabama. I know a lot of folks, I see the angry faces, are upset that Auburn lost in the SEC championship game. But the fact of the matter is, Gus Malzahn led this team to 10 victories, 5 straight wins, 2 wins against 2 number 1 teams for the first time ever by any team in the college football playoff era. And he did so by beating his 2 rivals. Also, recruiting. It's been top 10 the last 5 years. They're closing in on another top 10 class for a 6th straight season. They've got the pieces in place as well on the field now to be successful not only this season, but in the future seasons. As you see with Jarrett Stidham, when Auburn has a really, really good quarterback, they do well under Gus Malzahn. Gus Malzahn is a double-digit win coach when he has a great quarterback. Now everybody goes, well, yeah, every team can do that. No, not necessarily. I think Gus Malzahn's kind of that good ingredient that kind of mixes in with that. So Auburn secures Gus Malzahn. They haven't announced anything beyond that. Or actually, they haven't announced anything. They haven't announced the contract or anything. In fact, I was trying to get details tonight just on an official level other than sources, but I talked to someone saying that the structured deal will go north of $7 million at some point. I was first told it was going to be near $50 million, but then ESPN came out with $49 million, and I trust ESPN.com's report from Chris Lowe on that because he would know. He's probably got a much better source than I on any my financial figures because he knows agents and all kinds of people. But based on what I was being told, it was close to the $50 million range. At first, we were reporting that maybe at least a 5-year deal worth $7 million a year. Anyway, long story short, 7 years, $7 million. Now, Kit Copeland, great question. That's just what I was going to get to tonight. What's this mean as far as facilities for Auburn? My understanding is that was discussed and was brought up. Now, can you put that in writing? I don't know if there's a way to do that, but in the college football game, so to speak, in the business, if you say you're going to do something with facilities, you better do it. And if you got the support from the boosters to do it, then you're going to do it. So I don't know exactly what those facilities will entail. I'm working on that. But that was discussed, obviously, which is interesting to me because 4 years ago, after the 2013 season, Gus Malzahn told Auburn that he was fine with the facilities. And that was a great time for him to strike when the iron was hot, when he had just taken Auburn to a national championship game, but he didn't do it. He got a new contract, of course, but he did not get, any verbal agreement of any sort for new facilities. But it appears that was in the discussions this go around. I think that's a big thing for Auburn fans and for recruiting going forward, whether Gus Malzahn was a coach or not. I guess with that, I'll just take your guys' questions. That's all I've got right now. I know you guys got some questions. I saw something about Kevin Steele. Just scroll up. But anyway, if you have any questions about Gus Malzahn, anything else with athletics, I'd ask don't ask anything about basketball because I've literally not been reporting on that, and I haven't heard anything in a while on that. I've been focused on football for the last 2 weeks. Where's the Batman hat? I've got one right here. I've always got one, pretty much. All right, so what's up? Questions. Gus Malzahn, 7 years, $49 million. What's wrong with Auburn's facilities, asked Will. Well, the stadium needs upgrading, needs renovation. It's just a concrete monolith right now that looks like it hasn't been updated since the late 1980s, which is pretty much true. They've got to do something throughout the entire stadium. Also, there's possibility of a football complex. Now, like I said, I don't know the details, but these are things that have always kind of been brought up. And something they'll have to focus on in the future for recruiting and everything. Someone was asking about Kevin Steele and Chip Lindsey. Was hearing some talk from someone about Kevin Steele today. Nothing that I can really confirm on that. Chip Lindsey, my understanding, he's still involved in that USA search at South Alabama. I would say right now, if any of those two are more likely to leave, it would be Chip Lindsey. Which brings up an interesting thing. I posted this on the Botagetta message board at auburnundercover.com that it is possible. This is what I was told by a source who was actually somewhat involved with the, of what was going on at Arkansas with Gus. there was talk about him bringing Hugh Freeze with him to Arkansas as the offensive coordinator. If Chip Lindsey were to leave Auburn, I think it's very possible Gus Malzahn will have the power to bring in Hugh Freeze as his next offensive coordinator. I believe Gus Malzahn's in a better position, bigger seat of power at Auburn, and I think that it's possible that if Chip Lindsey were to leave, that Hugh Freeze could definitely step into that seat, sit in that seat, so to speak, and call plays from the press box. A lot of people asking about the other assistants and security for them. My understanding that was one of the situations for him as well, was to kind of secure his guys and kind of keep the guys he wants around longer contracts. There were some contracts that were set to expire here within the next few months or even the next year or 2 years. Those are things that will be discussed, I would think, either starting now or probably in January, most likely January. Those things usually get worked out in January and February. That's usually when those things are kind of signed. Will there be any staff turnover other than Kevin Steele or Chip Lindsey possibly maybe going somewhere else, like a promotion? I don't see it right now. I don't see Gus getting rid of anybody, but I think it would be more or less people leaving. People are asking about Hugh Freeze with show cause. He would have to serve a suspension if he was a head coach somewhere, not as an assistant coach. He wouldn't be punished as an assistant coach, based on my understanding of it. Andre says, how did Arkansas make Auburn spend money? When you get into bidding wars, that's what happened. Now, listen, even if Arkansas wasn't on the table, Gus Malzahn was going to get a new contract and raise of some sort anyway this offseason. It just was going to happen because of the 10 wins, possibly 11 going to the bowl game. So he was going to get it. It probably upped his price a little bit that Arkansas got involved. And listen, Arkansas really did want him. This wasn't a play by Jimmy Sexton to get him a big raise at Auburn. Gus wanted to stay at Auburn, but if the money was enough at Arkansas and Auburn was not willing to budge, I could have seen Gus Malzahn leaving. The big thing was the guaranteed money and the buyout and the power. And Gus got that today. What's Kerryon Johnson's health like? They expect him to be okay for the bowl game, but I mean, listen, there's no telling really. He's got a lot of, he's got a lot of time to heal up. The one thing that was interesting today on the Peach Bowl teleconference was that Gus Malzahn said he really didn't have an update on Cameron Petway for the bowl game. As I've said before on these Facebook Lives and at auburnundercover.com, I've been told by multiple people that did not expect him to play the rest of the season and that his career might be over at Auburn. That's what happens, I guess, he's been injured, he's had a fractured shoulder, and who knows what else is going on. What power did Gus Malzahn get? More power with his staff as far as being able to give them better deals, and maybe a little bit more autonomy over his own football program. And listen, it's no secret that over the last couple of years, Gus Malzahn's been told by outside forces that he has to hire an offensive coordinator, or not hire an offensive coordinator. They had to hand over the reins of the offense to someone, and then he had to hire an offensive coordinator. Then he was even told, listen, you cannot hire Chip Lindsey, and then he went and hired him anyway. Ultimately, I mean, listen, what's Gus Malzahn going to do? If I hire him, you're going to fire me right away? Well, Gus Malzahn hired him, and it proved to be the right move. Auburn won 10 games, and now that paid off for Gus Malzahn, he's got more room to maneuver. Any update on Carlton Davis? No. He says he had a concussion. Was the football-only facility discussed? I do not know. I'm sure it was, though. People ask about Kerryon Johnson if he'll go to the draft. I don't know. We asked him last night, and he said, listen, the only thing, my future right now is just the bowl game. And I can understand where he's coming from. He's probably still just trying to figure out a way to get healthy and play. He'll figure that out, like, probably in that week after the bowl game. And I know that sounds like a cop-out answer, but for these kids, it really is kind of like that, unless you just know automatically that, hey, I'm a first or second round guy. But for a guy like him at running back, he won't really have a good idea until like as he gets closer to the bowl game and then afterward. So, who do I think will declare for the draft? I think it's possible. Kerryon Johnson. I think Petway is possible. Jeff Holland's possible, though he's kind of slowed down a little bit here of late. Who else? Jarrett Stidham's possible. Heard some interesting info about him yesterday. Stidham said he's, not going anywhere. He's got things to work on, but I've heard that he was getting some pretty good feedback about things. So we'll see. All this stuff's all the way up beard. I keep getting questions about my beard. When am I going to trim it and everything? It's my wife on this feed telling me to trim it. She wants me to trim the beard too. I don't know if I want to. I can't grow hair on my head, so I have to grow it on my face. At least make me feel like I can, do something in my control. It's under my control. Is this a done deal with Gus? Yes. They agreed upon it today. Don't know if they signed anything, but they agreed upon it. It's done. Arkansas has moved on. They're already looking at Mike Norvell based off what I've been told. The Memphis coach. Sorry, guys. Some of these are going by so fast and some of the questions are real long and I can't read them. So please post them again if I'm not answering. I'm sorry. How did Auburn get UCF and why not a better team? UCF was pretty much a lock in the Peach Bowl, and so was Auburn after losing. Just how it works. They were not going to ship Auburn off the Fiesta Bowl. There was some talk about possibly doing that leading into Saturday, but Fiesta Bowl so much about trying to get geographically centered teams there. Cotton Bowl somewhat similar, but the Cotton Bowl was pretty much set up for other teams. And then the Orange Bowl was, almost set since last night, Wisconsin and Miami. So that was a no-brainer for the Orange Bowl. So, name value, Auburn got the short end of the stick, so to speak. But listen, UCF is scoring points against everybody. They're undefeated 12-0. Scott Frost, the head coach, has been hired in Nebraska, but he says he's going to coach the bowl game. We'll see. And then Auburn's got an explosive offense that just needs to get healthy again. And if it gets healthy before the bowl game, which it should, so they only got really one big injury, and that's Kerryon Johnson, they should be fine. It should be an entertaining game. It really should. And the only thing that sucks in my eyes about it is, it's 11:30 a.m. Central Time on New Year's Day. There's going to be a lot of fans waking up after a late night trying to catch that game, even on TV. People want to know about the athletics director search. I've got no new info on that. I'm sorry. I know people want to know about Tuberville. I have not heard Tuberville's name come up at all. Do some AD candidates back off now that they can't hire their own guy? No. They would assume that Gus Malzahn was going to be the head coach for football anyway. What does this deal mean for the AD position? Not much. It doesn't really affect that. If anything, it provides stability so they know who their coach is. They don't have to come in and lead a search immediately. You know what I mean? I think Cam Martin will be back next year. Yes. Yeah, he'll be back. If Arkansas wins 10 games with their new coach, you're slapping somebody. They're not winning. Arkansas's not winning 10 games next year. They don't have a lot of talent. Michelle McKenna-Doyle, yes, she is a serious candidate based off what I've been told, but I don't know if she's been contacted, so we'll see. They've done a pretty good job keeping that pretty quiet. Was the extension a good move? I think so. I said after the Iron Bowl they needed to get in front of Gus immediately and figure out a deal. At this point in college football in the SEC, money's really not an object. It's just a matter of if you trust their coach. I mean, sign the guy for 7 years at $70 million or whatever. They can pay it. They can. Now, should they pay it? Maybe not. But a 7-year deal at $49 million for a guy that's been to a national championship game, won 2 SEC West titles, won 1 SEC title, and has been to back-to-back New Year's Six games in 5 years, all that in 5 years. Yeah, sign that guy up. Why wouldn't you? I know fans are upset that Auburn lost the way they did in the SEC championship game, but I mean, goodness gracious, they beat 2 number 1 teams in a 3-week period. Just, I mean, going into this past week, everybody was amazed. People were saying that Auburn might be the best team in the country. Auburn was number 2 in the college football playoff rankings. Auburn didn't have a chance. Once in late in the third quarter, I could see Kerryon Johnson was not full speed, was not himself. Auburn, of course, fumbled the ball in the red zone away. They had a blocked field goal in the red zone, and then Kerryon Johnson fumbled the ball, and it led to a touchdown. And from there, it went from a 1-possession game to a 28-7 game, pretty much, the snap of the finger. So this isn't a bad Auburn team. I mean, it's a good team. They just got to have a healthy running back, and they didn't have that. Now, coaching decision-wise, for me, I'm not a coach. I'm not getting paid $7 million a year now, like Gus Malzahn, but I would have played Cam Martin more. He's your best running back behind Kerryon Johnson. What was Casey done? I don't know. That was strange. I don't know. I tried to talk to Casey last night after the game. He wasn't in the mood, which is understandable. A lot of players weren't in the mood to talk last night. Did Gus choose winning over money? I think he chose, yeah. I mean, he can win at Auburn, but also I think the promise for facilities is something interesting. It'd be interesting to see if Auburn decides to announce like any plans for facilities in the next 6 months. You know? That would help with recruiting. Have I heard anything about 2020 Power 5 opponent? I have not. Auburn's schedule is pretty set except for that year, as you just mentioned, 2020, for the next, at least Power 5 opponents for the next 6 years, 7 years. Let's not get into that Art and Kendall Briles talk. Let's not get into that. I don't see that. That wasn't happening when Chip Lindsey was hired in the first place, so I don't see why it would happen now. I mean, things change, but I don't. That's kind of radioactive, maybe. Another question about the OC and DC. Listen, if they get head coaching jobs, I mean, who can fault them for leaving? And that's a good sign for Auburn. It means you've got great coordinators, and then that means more great coordinators will want to come fill in those spots. It's not necessarily a bad thing when a coordinator becomes a head coach, you know what I mean? And leaves your program. Oh, Reynolds has jumped in. Reynolds, larger scoreboard, north end zone. They need to get away from doing large scoreboards. Yes, Auburn opens up with Washington next season. In Atlanta. 3 straight games in Atlanta for Auburn over these next 2 years. What is Auburn's strength of schedule next year? Good question. It's going to be up there with opening with Washington. It's another good Power 5 opponent, just like Clemson. What do the recruits think about Auburn? Ben asks. What exactly? What do you mean? I mean, Auburn's inching toward a top 10 class once again, so. How stable is Auburn athletics? There's still some issues. Listen, there's still some investigations going on. Obviously, with basketball situation, that's not very stable. There's things to work through. Whoever the new athletics director comes in, they're going to have to work through some miniature crises. Would Lane Kiffin be interested? No, he's the head coach right now. Why do you want to be an OC? So Dexo, I don't know. I agree, James. Yeah, I think Auburn's strength of schedule, kicked the stand. Auburn's strength of schedule this year is like number 7 in the country. 2-2 against teams in the playoff this year. That's pretty good. 2 wins in the playoff gets you a national championship. For example, let's say Auburn played Georgia and Alabama in a 3-week period, 2-week period. They win a national championship. Will I be back with Auburn Undercover next year? If Auburn Undercover will have me, I will be there. Why didn't upgrade a Steele to head coach? Because Gus didn't leave? I don't know, Ben. I don't cover recruiting. Am I for the funnel cakes or against? I like funnel cakes, but I don't think that's something you should be like selling as a game day enhancement, for football. One of our game day enhancements is we have funnel cakes. Oh, okay. Auburn's not in the playoffs, you're right, and so are 126 other teams. And then 100 something other teams aren't in a New Year's Six game. Yeah, Jake, yes, I want to be at Auburn Undercover. I don't plan to be at Auburn Undercover. I want to be there. But, I'm an employee. I'm not like a coach, where I'm guaranteed things. Nothing's guaranteed in life. I did not get to hang with Ronnie. He was there, but I was working in the press box. And, this is Dr. Pepper. Actually, from Atlanta. I brought it back with me. So I hadn't drank it yet. Tommy says Auburn will start next season a top 4. That's possible. I think they got to win the bowl game. Winning the bowl game is going to mean a lot for next year, next season. All the little Debbie's you can eat. Soft drinks are bad for you. I know, a lot of things are bad for you in this life, but you only get to live once. Do I think Carry-On's a Heisman contender next year? If he comes back next year and is healthy in the entire way, yeah, he'll be someone that's considered in preseason as a Heisman contender, yes. Absolutely. Well, I shaved the beard. I'm not going to shave it completely off. I look dumb without a beard. I look very fat without a beard. I'm fat already, but I don't need to work worse. You might be right. I think Auburn was especially emotionally drained when they got down 2 scores against Georgia. You could tell the body language wasn't there. Their energy was zapped. Auburn is losing offensive linemen, yep. And they've got to figure something out there, and they got to bring some guys in, maybe a JUCO guy or two. Lee, it's a great question about A-Man Corner. They're not going to fix the hiccup in the schedule with both games being on the road one year and both games at home with Alabama and Georgia. But I even brought this up back in 2014 SEC spring meetings. Have they ever discussed maybe moving the Georgia game to earlier in the season so, Auburn's not having to prepare for Alabama and Georgia all within a 2-week or 3-week span? And that has never been discussed apparently, so... O-line talent. That's a good question. Gus Malzahn really hasn't had a bad offensive line yet at Auburn. So, I think you mentioned the offensive line there this season maybe not being as strong. It's pretty strong this year. I don't know why you think that's not the case. Maybe I was reading that incorrectly. Who will be the captains of the defense? Oh, I have no idea. They don't even decide that till game week. Yeah, I don't understand all the bashing of Gus Malzahn right now. I don't get it, guys. Will Anders Carlson be anything like his brother? Great question. Do not know. But it's a good question for Daniel Carlson at the ball game, isn't it? Maybe we'll get to ask him that. Yeah, Auburn's going to be pretty set. Auburn's going to be set up pretty well at quarterback for the next few years. You got Jarrett Stidham probably coming back next season, and then Malik Willis, Joey Gatewood. They got some really good guys. What's my gut say about Stidham? I think he stays. I think he stays and tries to win a championship. Who does Arkansas go after now, Jeff asked. I think Mike Norvell, the Memphis coach. Joey Gatewood will not be a contender for starting next year. As long as Jared Stidham's here, that's not happening. View of next season, tough schedule, tough opener against Washington, but if you enter the season in the top 10 and then you beat Washington to start the season, Auburn's probably a top 5 type team going in from there. So, I agree. Yeah, Prince Tega, coming back. That's good. Prince Tega is going to be very, very good. Bo Nix, I don't know. Actually, don't know much about Bo Nix. I know much about Bo Jackson. By the way, it's a cool scene. This loss and everything. I know because Auburn lost last night. They had an open locker room for reporters. You know, you only get that at like New Year's 6 games and SEC championship. So they had an open locker room after the game. Go in and talk to players, and walk in, and who is sitting in there just chatting with people? Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson's just sitting in there talking to Auburn guys, giving wisdom. How cool is that? Can you imagine being an 18, 19-year-old kid and Bo Jackson's in there like going, hey, you know, this is what's going on. This is how you deal with this, and this is how you deal with that. That's pretty cool. Even in a loss like that. All right, guys, 1 or 2 more questions, then I am going to jet. We've been on here for a while. How is Ashley developing? Calvin Ashley? I haven't heard much on him. I'm not going to Waffle House. I haven't been to Waffle House in a long time. Carlton Davis, what happened? I don't know. I've heard the rumors. I've heard everything you guys have been hearing about what may or may not have happened. I don't know. He says he had concussion. Do I think Auburn should move to the East? I think they should have when the SEC expanded back in 2012. Wasn't their decision to be made, but it should have happened. Someone just asked about Calvin Ashley again. All right, just answer that. These kids don't know about Bo Jackson. They better. They better learn. Randy's asked about special teams coach. Tim Horton's the guy right now. We'll see what happens after the season. I mean, you don't get rid of Tim Horton. He's running backs coach. He's really good. But maybe with this 10th assistant that is possibly being added on, maybe you go out and hire a special teams coach. And Kenneth asks, my height for Star Wars Jedi. Last Jedi, is that what it's called? Sure, I'll go see it. I mean, it looks good. Strength coach. Auburn's got a strength coach. Why would they change that? Okay, guys. Strength and conditioning is not Auburn's problem. Am I in a strange world here? Auburn just played for an SEC title. And everybody's asking, like, why can't they change this and fire this guy and fire that guy? I'm confused. Man. Anyway, all right. That's going to do it. Thank you so much for joining me. Go to auburnundercover.com or auburn.247sports.com. Subscribe. Be able to get inside info. You know? Things. We broke the news that Gus got his deal today. So, be the first to know about things. It's always good. We have a very good team. Philip Marshall, Michael Neislick, Keith Niebuhr's all over recruiting. Miles is doing video and stuff for us. Photos, social media. It's great. All right, guys. People are complaining about Auburn losing to Georgia, calling them an inferior team. Georgia has 1 loss. Okay, I'm out of here. Georgia's in the playoff. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Go to auburnundercover.com. Thank you. See you guys.